So it seems that Games Workshop have dropped a World Eaters teaser. We've got the prices for the new sector Imperialis terrain and it's not looking great. A few more details about Demon Primarch Fulgrim, Games Workshop on the FTSE 100, and some confirmation and surprise releases for the Combat Patrol magazine. Let's do a roundup of 40k news. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today I thought we'd do another quick roundup of Warhammer 40k news stories, a whole bunch of things around Games Workshop's news and releases that I found interesting enough to share, but didn't really need its entire video all to itself. As mentioned, we've got a Codex teaser, Combat Patrol magazine contents, prices of the made-to-order sector Imperialis terrain, a few more fun things the internet's noticed about Fulgrim, and a few more things. Jumping straight into it was a Codex release date teaser that I'd sort of glossed over a little bit at the time. There were quite a lot of things coming out alongside the Grotmus detachments that they had for Warhammer 40k, and it seems that tucked away at one of the end of the articles was a teaser that the World Eaters might well be coming for Easter. On the reveal article that talked about their new detachment, their specific words were "join us for World Easter in a few months for our next seasonal crossover," and that really does sound like a pretty clear hint as to when their codex would be. I don't think that this is just a joke or anything like that. They don't usually tend to mess around too much with release dates and things that people are genuinely waiting on, preferring rather to manage expectations and not have angry fans versus just literally winding people up for no reason. In any case, it looks like Easter is April the 20th in 2025, so I guess we should be on the lookout somewhere around then, though I suppose we'll hear details that the Codex is coming a fair bit more before it actually releases. The World Eaters got their Codex and model release really quite late on in 9th edition, so probably for the best that they're not being left till last this time around again. I just really hope that Games Workshop does actually release a fair few more models for them. I think people were maybe just a little bit on the underwhelmed side by how many they had last time around. It did feel like a slightly smaller release, maybe kind of akin to Thousand Sons perhaps. The single most likely new model for them seems to be that Berserker Surgeon, which they mentioned absolutely loads in the lore last time around. I was kind of surprised we didn't see a model for them. Otherwise, I feel like the next things on the fan desires would be things like Red Butcher's Terminators, given that the Thousand Sons and the Death Guard have their own patterns, maybe Juggernaut Cavalry, given that there was some Codex artwork that looked like there was some of those. I think a lot of people would really like to see some more Cornate Demon engines as well. Something Blood Slaughterer style I think would be really cool to have in the ranks. In any case, fingers crossed they get the Blood-Soaked Carnage worth of models that they deserve. With that hint, we're actually building up really quite a big picture of what's going to be coming when for 2025. We already had Games Workshop somewhat on a helpful roadmap, but basically it sounds like it's Astra Militarum with their Krieg launch box first, then Eldari after that, with that big wave of Aspect Warriors that they have coming. We don't know yet whether or not the actual full Astra Militarum Codex release will be before or after Codex Eldari. It might be that in the lag time between the launch box and the actual Codex release, Eldari might release in the interim. So far we haven't heard of an Eldari launch box. I'm not sure if they might have one with a whole bunch of Aspect Warriors, though I feel like if that was the case then they probably would have showcased it when they showed off all the Aspect Warriors and Phoenix Lords and things. Then after that, in any case, apparently the next one's going to be Imperial Knights, and I really wouldn't be too surprised if Chaos Knights was a similar sort of time to that, or even at the very same time. They had them as paired releases in 9th edition. Otherwise, for actual confirmations, they told us that Grey Knights and Emperor's Children were both coming in 2025, so another massive model release for the Emperor's Children, no doubt. And now we can add World Eaters to that list as well, teased around about Easter time, so fairly early in the year. Given the only other thing that we had on the roadmap was special Chaos treats, it does make me wonder if we're going to have some sort of enormous Chaos release just after those first 3 Codexes. If the rumours are true and the Grotmus Advent Calendar might indicate, it seems there's a chance that we might well lose Codex Chaos Demons as its own standalone thing. As if we weren't, then why would they release all of the deity detachments that would almost certainly be in the Codex otherwise? If so, then that would probably go well with them releasing all the deity Space Marine Codexes at once, so you don't have some sort of interim period. So I feel like there's some chance that there might be some sort of enormous Chaos release sometime around Easter, maybe with Emperor's Children there, unless they leave them till a bit later. In any case, the vast majority of the remaining Codexes should be coming out in 2025, with maybe only 1 or 2 left till last, like Guard and the World Eaters were last time. I kind of wonder if that might be Space Wolves this time around, given that they also seem to be odds on for a range refresh, and Lehman Russ would be the next most likely Primarch to come back for the Loyalists. They could do a line-style release at the end of the edition if they wanted to. Before we move on to Combat Patrol, terrain pieces and more, I will just give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor in a commission painting service called The Third Place. They're based in the Midlands in the United Kingdom, and run by Michael Russell, a newer commission painter working for the past 12 months or so, and looking for a few more commissions to keep him busy in the new year. Basically, the offering is that you can contact them for a quote on a project with 3 different levels: a basic no-frills battle-ready one, just getting miniatures on the table at less effort, a medium battle-ready plus offering, or centerpiece quality, and you can do either individual miniatures or armies. He's got an email address, mike@britbox.co.uk, that you can contact for quotes, links down in the video description, and has a bunch of his work also shown on his TikTok at @DrugJanus. Here's a typical price list for some infantry style minis, perhaps best to go for exact quotes via his email though, ranging from quite cheap and affordable battle ready things all the way up to centerpiece stuff. If you quote Allspecs01 in the email as well, he says that as an extra incentive he'll give you 15% off any quote. In any case, a big thank you to them for sponsoring the video. Feel free to check them out, links down in the video description with his email address. Moving on, I thought it would be good to check in on the Hachette Combat Patrol magazine, given that there's been a couple of other interesting bits of information about it regarding the miniature contents. This one's the weekly subscription Warhammer 40k magazine, where you have £10 issues that often have miniatures of far higher value inside of it. It's currently at around about issue 17 or so, I think, in the UK, and is expected to be coming to the USA and Australia and further afield in the next year. One of the interesting things that was sent in to me by a few different people was that one extra add-in that they're throwing into the magazine is Chief Librarian Tigurius, and he basically looks like an extra upsell for people who are actually subscribed to Hachette themselves, as opposed to being available for people who want to pick them up in the shops. It basically looks like for an extra £10 you can get the Chief Librarian turn up with some little stats and things of his own. So it means there's a good chance that there'll be a bunch more Tigurius models running around, maybe a few of them making their way onto the second-hand market in the UK if they were picking them up and then deciding they didn't really want that particular miniature. As it goes for 40k things, it really is quite a good deal for an add-on. £10 for a model versus the £23.80 that it'd cost at a 15% discounter. So that means around about 58% off what you could get it normally, even at discount, which is pretty good, or around about 65% versus Games Workshop. It looks like the way that this one works is that unless you opt out of it, then they'll charge you the extra money and send you the extra model, which seems maybe a little bit on the dodgy side. I might be missing a detail though, I'm not sure whether or not you had to opt in or out of this to start with. If so, I guess that would make it a bit more acceptable. Either way though, it doesn't exactly feel like the most unreasonable upsell, given that if you really wanted to, you could just directly resell this guy for far more than how much you pay for him. Though I guess I feel like even a good deal here might just add to the sheer amount of plastic overload you're likely to get from this magazine. I know I'd certainly not be able to keep up with painting them if I'd subscribed to the entire run myself. Otherwise, the second bit of Combat Patrol news was a bit of confirmation as to the miniatures that will be coming out in it. Around about a month or so ago, there was a leak from a website that was listing them for sale, basically showing the exact miniatures that will be coming out in each and every issue of the magazine up to its full runtime, which definitely was interesting and seemed perfectly reasonable, though it is good to have some second confirmation for a more official source. To my understanding, Hachette Partworks basically uses Warhammer as kind of a mouthpiece to announce what's coming out for their magazine, giving them the content earlier before other people. I'll link their website below. From their reveals though, it basically does just back up what we already knew. I think the only new information is the exact paint contents in the issues that didn't have magazines on, but they tend to be super low sought after anyway, given that they often cost more than the paints that are contained within them. In any case, in the UK we're currently around about issue 17, coming to the end of the Tyranid and Space Marine ones, and that means it's the Eldari next. Number 21 is the Farseer, number 23 and 24 are Guardian Defenders, number 26 is the Wraith Lord, and numbers 27 to 29 are the Wind Riders, 6 between the 3 issues, as was said by Goblin Trader. As well as that, they had a little bit of information as to the exact paint pot contents. It seems there's a shade brush in with the 25 one, which might make that one just a little bit more tempting alongside some known oil. Otherwise, beyond that, there's the Chaos Marine issues. These are the models from the previous Combat Patrol box, so no longer available at discount right now. A Dark Apostle in a single issue is quite a good one. Then there's Chaos Marines, Havocs and Hellbrutes, all split across 2 issues, which make them a tiny bit less good. But then some absolutely standout value ones in the unit of Wraithguard in a single issue, and the same for a squad of Chaos Terminators. It is nice to have a bit more confirmation about those though, and for deals from the UK to look out for at the moment. We're shortly getting issues 19 and 20 out, 19 being the Parasite of Mortrex and 20 being the Chaplain on Bike. Both of these are absolutely great for £10 if you can manage to find somewhere that's stocking them, or order them in via a news agent or something. And the other easier way to snipe certain issues in the UK is via Forbidden Planet, which I'll link down in the video description. They're usually £13.50, as you have to pay for delivery, so it's basically the cost of postage for some convenience of ordering online and not going out to the shops to find magazines that might or might not be there. Currently the more interesting ones on sale for them are number 15 and 21, that's the Psychophage and the Farseer, both of which are a bit cheaper than what you can get on the second-hand market. Unfortunately and kind of predictably, number 26 with the Wraith Lord in it has sold out pretty fast. That was a great deal on that one. And then it looks like numbers 27 and 28 are in stock for the jet bikes, which are also really quite good deals, though it looks like number 29 isn't up yet. It does seem likely that it's probably 2 Wind Riders per issue though, and Fohammer seem to say similar. And again, in theory, that could be really quite a good discount deal if you're looking to pick up lots of Wind Riders, though admittedly they do come in the Combat Patrol themselves. Otherwise, for things coming on Forbidden Planet, I look out for issue 31 as well when they post more, as that one's got the Dark Apostle in it, and again I'd guess that that one will probably go fairly fast as a result. In any case, could be of use to some people in the UK for some discounts on certain minis. Anything bought through the Forbidden Planet affiliate links does go to help the channel a little bit, as usual. Next up, it appears that Games Workshop's made-to-order set of Imperialis terrain has materialised. It's gone up for sale, so now we know and can be slightly disappointed by the prices. As ever with Games Workshop plastic terrain, it does cost quite a lot for what you get, though some of the pieces do look rather nice. The idea behind these is that they'll be on sale between the 25th of December and the 6th of January, so encompassing the 12 days of Christmas there, and then they ship out within the next 180 days when they've made them to order. A fair few people were interested in picking these up. They're live on the Games Workshop web store now. First up we have the Sanctum with a whole bunch of Imperial Saints and things on the columns. That one's £50 or $80. The Imperial Sector with the 3 medium-sized ruins, that's £100, $170 or €130. I must admit that one does feel a bit on the painful side for 3 ruins there. I just feel like maybe a few of the others feel a bit more like fancy centerpieces compared with them. Otherwise, the Manufactorum one is £50 or $80. The Basilicanum with its great big statues and things, that's £71 or $115. And then there's the Objective Marker set with 6 different relics or Archaeotech type things, and they're £28 or $45. As ever, a bit on the pricey side. It does sound like a few people have bought them, and maybe a little bit on the disappointing side that you can't get any discount from discount retailers on these ones, given that they're made to order. Let me know if you have picked up any of them down in the comments below, or if you were going to but couldn't justify the prices. Next up, I just thought I'd cycle back to Fulgrim, who of course we had his pretty momentous reveal of yet another Primarch to return to Warhammer 40k on Christmas Day. A pretty spectacular model reveal, and for the most part it's gone down really quite well with internet reactions and things. I made a bit of a quick take video on the day, not wanting to spend too much time away from Christmas festivities, and I thought I'd just do a couple more comparisons now. One other cool feature that I didn't mention in the video as well was that the sword on the sort of top right hand corner of that image, the one held in his upper left hand above the whip, that's likely the Fireblade gifted to him by Ferrus Manus. Games Workshop did drop a couple of teasers to that in the article, though they also said that he might be armed with all manner of blades, claws and other implements of death, taking up which ones should take his fancy. Another thing that was all speculated on the internet was whether or not they might try and tie in the Emperor's Children release with the 6th month of the year. That's probably going out on a limb a bit, but I guess you could have a 6th of June 2026 if they did want to go for maximum theming points. That'd be a Friday rather than the more normal Saturday pre-orders and things, but I did quite like the idea. Otherwise, I thought I'd just take a look at another shot of the model, the scaling of him and how he compares with the Heresy one in people's minds. One criticism of the miniature was the size of the wings, which maybe isn't made too apparent by the actual front shots of the mini. It does seem that they have really quite a lot of bulk to them, and they go really quite a lot further back behind him. They're sort of drawn back as opposed to directly extended as much as possible. It's not quite as big and billowing versus the 30k version of him though, of course. Otherwise, I was interested to see if we could do a bit of a size comparison versus his brother Primarchs. It looks like he's also going to be on the 100mm base that the other ones are, and as it goes it looks like his size and stature might be a touch smaller than the rest of them. He doesn't really quite overhang that base quite by much, besides the wings at the back I suppose. Though admittedly in terms of his height, this picture will maybe underestimate his stature at least by a little bit, as it's looking a touch more top down at him versus the other ones lined up next to him. He does seem a bit smaller and less bulky versus his brothers though perhaps, and doesn't really sound quite as tall due to his lack of legs, with his great serpentine tail making him a little bit lower to the ground than them. Angrons on some tactical rocks and piles of skulls and things, Mortarions borne aloft, and Magnus is standing rather tall, but overall maybe does look a bit smaller and more subtle than some of the rest. Otherwise, maybe one of the other things that was most talked about on the internet was comparing him to his Heresy version, the Fulgrim transfigured one. He was a miniature that went down really quite well, and feels like it was kind of inevitable that if they wanted to release 2 different versions of Demon Fulgrim within the couple of years or so, there were going to be comparisons drawn between them. And I guess they're both going for slightly different ideas with some pros and cons, plus trying to represent him at different points in history as well. A new idea in Primark that hasn't long been transformed versus the 40k entity that's been left to marinate in the warp quite a long time. I thought it would be interesting to do a Snap channel poll as to which miniature people preferred, and it seems that people are at least fairly evenly split on it. 40k Primark Fulgrim wins, but not by a crazy amount, less than 60% of the vote. It seems that more people prefer the new plastic model that's just been unveiled versus the rather nice Fulgrim transfigured Heresy one. On the internet and places, it looks like a few of the common talking points are that the Heresy version's wings are pretty cool but might be a bit impractical to use as a miniature on the tabletop, and not very easy to store or transport either, plus maybe the Heresy one has got a bit of a better facial sculpt. The 40k one does have some slightly unusual facial expressions going on, I guess. I think in general though, a lot of people were just saying that they look kind of good for their own era and both do the job pretty well. And there might have been a bit of a tilt to the vote by people being a bit more enamoured by the plastic model rather than working in resin. I saw at least a couple of people who said that I'm going to vote for the plastic version, as in a tiebreaker that's definitely going to win for me. Another bit of small Games Workshop news, it looks like their stocks are soaring once again. In December, it looks like Games Workshop's now on the FTSE 100 of the 100 biggest UK companies by market capitalisation, listed on the London Stock Exchange. They have been going that way for really quite a long time, stocks generally surging for a while, and then the latest massive spike is the huge boost in sales triggered by Space Marine 2. And I guess the announcement of that Amazon TV series going ahead, plus the good reaction to Secret Level and things, haven't hurt too much for optimism in the meantime. With reports of yet more profits, I think it does kind of underline for hobbyists that if they wanted to charge a lot less for their miniatures, and they certainly could do, it's just a choice not to, as they feel that brings in the most profit for them. Though that's not exactly unexpected of companies trying to please shareholders. It is kind of crazy to think of Games Workshop and Warhammer as generally being one of the bigger and more important companies in the UK full stop though. And for all their faults, which I'm sure we could pick many of, it's nice to see a British company that manufactures domestically doing well, as opposed to outsourcing to cheaper factories with questionable labour treatment overseas. As I mentioned in the last one of these, this week's Warhammer releases are the Squat Prospectors, a bunch of plastic minis for Necromunda. They're exokin, sort of the squat equivalent of the Ironhair Hearthguard, and look like they're £31 or $52. Plus there's a frame of weapon upgrades for them and these Venator Scout Trikes. Again, kind of interesting to see what the Leagues of Votan might have been if Games Workshop decided just to keep their aesthetics to the squats of old. They'll all be going on pre-order this Saturday. On top of that, for the old world, it's a big release for the Empire of Man. A whole bunch of really old kits coming back for them in various shapes and sizes. Lots of plastic, plenty of resin, and a rulebook for the old world too. As ever, if you were looking to order in any of those, there's a bunch of affiliate discounters linked down in the video description. They can save a bunch of money versus Games Workshop and help to support the channel a bit. Plenty of other good discount retailers out there, of course. Finally, moving beyond Games Workshop to just a YouTube thing in general that I found interesting. I watched a video a few days back on a YouTube sponsor called Honey. The idea of that is it's basically a browser extension which in theory its purpose is to find you coupon codes when you're shopping at different websites. The idea is they'll give you a pop-up with a coupon code at checkout and maybe save you a small amount of money. It looked like it was really quite a popular YouTube sponsor at the time, as I think that creators and fans alike basically looked at a system like that and thought how could it possibly be extorting you or ripping you off in some way, because it just didn't really seem obvious how it would do so. Given that general idea, it was almost kind of impressive just how downright parasitic it could be, basically seeming just to be bad news for the creators that promoted it, the audience and people that downloaded it, and even the shops that are selling the things to start with, being basically a parasitic middleman and delivering a bad service to everyone. As a content creator who gets a fair bit of support from you guys via affiliate link sales, it's definitely kind of relevant to people like me, as basically after you've clicked on say one of the affiliate links to a store selling Warhammer or something like that, at checkout it would often trigger a pop-up on whether or not it actually gave you any coupons or anything like that. What it'd do would basically be to replace the affiliate sale with an affiliate tracking thing from Honey itself, so basically they just stole the commission of whatever creator was referring them to a site to buy something. The video itself explains that a lot better than I would, but basically it's just kind of poaching advertising revenue, despite doing no advertising itself. On top of that, it doesn't even seem to be a particularly good deal for the people using it, as it deliberately hides some of the best voucher codes, and has a tiny cashback scheme where it basically keeps the vast majority of all proceeds for itself, and doesn't really seem to be particularly good news for businesses that it's being used on either, given it'll basically be taking affiliate commissions from them despite not promoting them at all, so it's essentially ripping them off with money from them for doing absolutely nothing. In any case, I just thought I'd share that it seems to be broadly bad news for literally everyone. I thoroughly recommend checking out that video that I reference. It'll be linked down in the video description. I certainly recommend avoid using it if you want to support any content creators, including myself. And bear in mind that even if you're not bothered about that sort of thing, middlemen like this taking a chunk of the profits each time is probably going to be a cost that's eventually passed on to the consumer in some way, shape or form. So it probably isn't the sort of parasitic internet thing that you really want to encourage too much. In any case, I was just kind of almost impressed by just how devious or evil basically a free coupon browser extension could wind up being. In any case, I'll leave that one there for now. Look forward to hearing your thoughts on World Eaters teasers, next Codex releases, Combat Patrol magazines, Fulgrim and more. Let me know everything down in the comments. As mentioned, a big thank you to the third place and commission painter Mr. Mike Rossall for sponsoring the video. As mentioned, I'll leave his email address linked down in the video description, and if you want some commission painted things, if you include the referral code AUSPEX01 in the email, he'll give you a quote at 15% off. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly keep up with the regular Games Workshop's news and rumours when they come out. I'll certainly be back with more content just about every single day. Feel free to check out the Patreon page and the 40k discount links in the video description if you'd like to support the channel. A massive thank you to anyone choosing to do that, but otherwise just an absolutely massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.